for daily fantasy. His number too high, then I'm probably fading him. He been on the road, he gon' eat up my salary. I hit up by, he gon' lie before lock. Play back to back, then I probably won't pick on the Dfs Bachelor, good as it gets. Bit a few liners and hit me a leg. He had a good game, but it might be a trick. Log in the Slack so I know who to pick. Sharing our liners, we all gon' get rich. New to this game, you should come to the pad. You might want some cash and get a good laugh. Dfs Sports, we gon' run up a bag. He heard every game and it's making me mad. You buying your lineups, I think you a cheater. Dfs Bachelor, he the new leader, yeah.
What is up, everyone? Welcome back to the Bachelor Pad. I, of course, am your host of Dfs Bachelor, and back from the dead. I know we were off last week, which is totally my fault, by the way. We're going to go over our first look Fanduel and Draftkings main slate, and of course, when we do that, we like to double our knowledge, bring in all of the great information that our boy Doug has. And by the way, people even in the comment section saying, hey, I love your show, but Doug is winning me some money over at his channel. So Doug, how you doing today, brother? Glad to be back.
Doing good, man. Working on a setup here for a little better setup, man. Kind of look like it's mom's basement right now, but it's getting there.
It sounds great, too. I love the new microphone,
Yeah,
the headset. It sounds good.
Sure.
And we're glad that we're back. Again, first things first, a big thank you, a big cheers to you all. Really appreciate all your support. We just went over 14,000 subscribers over the weekend, which is just incredible to me. So thank you all so much for that. If you're new to the channel, hey, hit that like button and hit that subscribe button. I'd love to get to 15,000. I appreciate all the support there. Also, by liking the video, subscribing to the channel, and leaving a comment in the comment section, you qualify for our weekly $50 PayPal giveaway we announce every Saturday in our final look video. That is brought to you by my friends over at Tax Relief Advocates, making your tax debt disappear faster than, well, my beach body. Let's just put it that way. As I get older and sit around, I look like absolute shit. Doug and I were just talking about this off the air. It's shameful what I look like now compared to 5 years ago. But they do a great job. You know, if the government's messing with your money at all, give them a call, 1-800-411-9633. And a big thank you to them for sponsoring the giveaway. As usual, if you want my player pool, projections, targets, articles, mass lineup generator, you can use my player pool in that. You can stack your quarterbacks, wide receivers, all sorts of new things there. Articles for everything. Click that link in the video description below. Try Draft Dashboard for 30 days for $1 and get my player pool in the process. And as usual, check out my friends over at Overlay DFS. A ton of fun over there. Be sure to hit them up on Twitter at Overlay DFS. Ask about their first deposit bonus. And like I said, you see our Twitter handles there at DFS Bachelor, at Jackpot25. Don't forget also, you can check the video description or do it on your own. Search for Jackpot DFS on YouTube. Doug's doing a great job over there, getting the show off the ground, stepping out there and doing a fantastic job. So make sure to check him out over there as well. I believe that's all the house cleaning. Of course, I'm live at Sportsbook Review 4 times a week. Actually, 5 times this week. Got done with a golf and a football video. So check out our Masters look over there, too. There's a link for that in the video description. So make sure you click that down arrow and check out all the descriptions. Hit that like button. All that good stuff. Doug, it is week 10 already, which is absolutely insane. Got 11 games. Looks like only one game with real weather issues, possibly in Lambeau Field. So let's just start with you right away here. When we're looking at quarterbacks, just go through all your quarterbacks. I have my early top 5. It's our first look, obviously. Sure. So going through quarterbacks, what are you looking at early in the week?
Well, I think first guys I'm really looking at is Kyler Murray. I didn't play a lot of him this past week. He absolutely just exploded this past weekend. So I think in a great matchup against Buffalo. Yeah. I think you just need to get back on Kyler Murray. It's a great week to pay up at quarterback because you've got some cheap options. You don't have that really expensive running back to pay for this week or really expensive tight end to pay for this week. Yeah. So it's a good week to pay up for a quarterback this week and not have to chew down and pay down at quarterback. Although there are some options where you can pay down at quarterback this week. I also like Aaron Rodgers. I know there's some issues with the weather possibly. But in a great matchup, just love Aaron Rodgers. He's only threw 2 picks in the season. Just love him this season. And then Russell Wilson, battle of against the Rams this weekend. Like Russell Wilson. Also like Deshaun Watson this weekend against Cleveland. It should be a shootout possibly. I know their defenses are not the best in the world, but I'll give Cleveland some props. Their defense is a little bit better than they're getting credit for. And then I'll shoot in and mention a couple guys I like for value this week. Alex Smith, I mean, surprise, surprise, kind of came back and shaked off the leg and threw over 300 this weekend. And going against Detroit this week, Detroit can't stop anything. Can't like that any better for Alex Smith spot if you want to pay down at quarterback this week. And also like Mustache Mania might be over. Or might be having a going out of business sale if Jake Luton keeps playing the way he did this past weekend in a first start. Also like him in a comeback game as far as coming back at Green Bay with Jacksonville. So
Sure. We've got some similar plays here. I like Kyler Murray. Look, 3 straight weeks over double-digit carries, a beatable Buffalo offense. The Cardinals' defense is dreadful as well. Should be a ton of points. Great weather. I mean, we got a 55.5 total right now as we sit. Actually, earlier I think I saw 56.5 at a couple offshore books as well. 4 straight games of at least 29, back-to-back 40-point outputs. I think Kyler Murray, even though he's the most expensive, he's going to be a nice play this week. I agree with you on Aaron Rodgers. I'm going to wait and see what the weather does. But we even saw that against Minnesota a couple weeks ago. It was dreadful weather. Still put up a 24, so I think you could go there as well. Josh Allen against Arizona. That Arizona defense is dreadful. We saw Tua just torch that up in his second career start. Buffalo's offense got rolling against Seattle. Another bad defense. He's 7-5 on DraftKings, 8-7 on Fanduel. Arizona 16th against opposing quarterbacks in a game with a lot of points and rushing upside. I do like Josh Allen as well. You mentioned Deshaun Watson. Cleveland, 23rd in the league against opposing quarterbacks. Absolutely dreadful defense. And Houston has a bad defense too, so you should expect points in this game. Sitting there at 6,900. Look at his last 5 games, 24, 30, 35, 27, 24. The points are there, the opportunity's there, the matchup is there. I like Deshaun Watson quite a bit, and I've got a couple of value quarterbacks that I'm eyeing early in the week as well, and one of them is Tua Tagovailoa. The Chargers allow the 3rd most fantasy points in the league, or 4th most fantasy points in the league, to opposing quarterbacks. It's going to be nice weather, at home, a little shootout between rookie quarterbacks who we thought could have been flip-flopped with Justin Herbert there. I think Tua, I love what I saw from his rushing upside. The Chargers do like to bring some pressure, so I think you have a nice rushing floor. Also, beatable secondary. I think Tua at 5,600 on DraftKings, 6,800 on FanDuel could be some nice value. And then right below that, a guy who came through for us this week, started off really slow, picked it up at the end. I do like Drew Lock again at 5,500 on DraftKings, 7-1 on FanDuel. The Raiders allowing the 6th most fantasy points in the league to opposing quarterbacks. A game where I think the Raiders probably can jump out to a lead. I do think that the Broncos are going to have to throw the football. Getting that nice rapport with Jerry Jeudy. I think Drew Lock is an interesting value play as well at quarterback. Before we go to running backs, anything else you want to touch on at quarterback? Are we ready to?
The only thing else I'll mention about quarterbacks is Tom Brady is not going to be. He's going to be awfully salty about that loss to New Orleans. So expect him to come out throwing pretty hard against Panthers this weekend. So
yeah, I don't disagree. They play a lot of zone in Carolina, but we saw Patrick Mahomes was able to get through that this week. So I do think that's a solid call. When we get to running back, right at the top, I mean, Christian McCaffrey might miss this game after a huge return. That being said, when we look at running backs, I got about 5 guys picked out early in the week. What are you looking at running back this week?
Obviously, with the weather concern in Green Bay, obviously you got to look at Aaron Jones at the top. I mean, 7,100, obviously beast mode. Could go right back to him this week. He's performed pretty well this season. You could argue he's a top 5 running back this season as far as fantasy wise.
Oh yeah.
And then James Conner, I'm really salty with him, man. He's in another great spot this week, but I'm salty with him putting up what did he put up a 4?
Yeah, that was just
in
a
great
weird
spot
game.
This weekend, man. Really upset me this weekend. I had a lot of Conner. Thought he would produce a lot better. But good news is we got some Hunt back this week. After a bye, and he should be in prime time here for against Houston. A couple other guys to mention. You mentioned Christian McCaffrey. If he does not play, which I have heard some rumors that he could possibly miss the rest of the season just because they're not looking like a playoff team, and they may just want to rest him the rest of the season. Mike Davis is only 4,000 this week. Wow. So if he doesn't play, sign me up for Mike Davis. So Even though they're going against a tough Tampa D, still like that at 4 grand. And another value got to mention that I really like, when Alex Smith came in the ball game, McKenzie only had one catch. He ended up getting 14 targets in the rest of that game from Alex Smith. 4,900. He's playing about what 50% of the snaps. He's getting all the passing work. I could see, especially going against Detroit, could be a massive game for McKenzie.
I love the J.D. McKissick call. He was on my list. The Lions allow the most fantasy points in the league to opposing running backs. And you mentioned it. With Alex Smith at quarterback, you know what you're going to see. He's going to throw the football to his running backs repeatedly. It's a terrific value guy. And again, you can follow either one of us at Twitter. As soon as we find out about McCaffrey with that shoulder injury, Mike Davis going all the way, even last week from the back, he was at 6,000 backing him up. He put a 16 up last time they played Tampa Bay. I really like that call. Aaron Jones, obviously. Jacksonville allows the sixth most fantasy points in the league to opposing running backs, sitting at 7-1 and 8-8. Get those extra few days. I mean, he wasn't, he was kind of iffy. We didn't think he was going to get a full workload. He ends up getting 20 touches on Thursday Night Football against the 49ers. Now he's got 10 days off against Jacksonville in a windy game. Aaron Jones, touchdown anytime. I love that prop bet this week as well. I like Kareem Hunt a lot. I do want to see if Nick Chubb indeed comes back this week. I think it's something to keep an eye on. Houston, dreadful against the run, allow the third most fantasy points in the league to opposing running backs. I absolutely love Kareem Hunt or Nick Chubb. Even if Kareem Hunt plays, I think that'll lower some of the, or if Nick Chubb plays, it'll lower the ownership of Kareem Hunt, and he's still going to be involved in that offense, so he could be someone interesting to keep an eye on there. Right below that, James Robinson. Look, if we know anything about the Green Bay Packers, it's that they cannot stop the run. In back-to-back weeks, James Robinson, 22 carries and 25 carries, 8 targets as well. The Packers allow the second most fantasy points in the league to opposing running backs. I love James Robinson this week. I think he's in a smash spot against the Packers. You mentioned J.D. McKissick. I also like Antonio Gibson at 5'6". Both Washington running backs are in play. The Lions cannot stop the run. So even last week with limited touches, Antonio Gibson, 6 carries, 3 targets, and they were coming from behind in that game. They ended up losing that game. But so with 9 touches, he still put up a 14. He's got something like 5 straight double-digit fantasy outputs, including a couple 20s. The Lions, you want to attack that Lions rushing defense, so I don't mind Gibson. And then you mentioned J.D. McKissick, and I really like him on DraftKings at 4.9. Look, even he's playing 53% of the snaps right now, but 14 targets. And again, with Alex Smith in there, it's going to be short passes, especially if they get down early. If Detroit comes out at home, gets an early lead, Alex Smith's going to be throwing these short passes. McKissick will be the beneficiary, so I do like McKissick quite a bit. And of course, and it'll be chalk, even though Tampa Bay is one of the best running defenses in the NFL, still put up a 16 last time. Mike Davis, 4,000 will be hard to ignore if McCaffrey indeed misses this week. Moving on to the wide receiver spot. I feel like we're moving through this video fast. I mean, we're only at 13 minutes. Not bad. Not bad.
Just before we get past the running backs,
Sure.
I'm just putting a flyer out there. Any Cardinals running back that's starting, just fade for the love of God.
I mean, Chase Edmonds really did disappoint last week. The thing is Kyler Murray, when he runs, he's not dumping it off. Even when he's scrambling, he is looking downfield.
Yeah.
And I will say, I mean, we're at wide receivers, but you're going to see a lot of shadow coverage from White onto Hopkins, so it could be another Christian Kirk week in that slot against Levi Wallace and Teron Johnson. But going to wide receivers here, I've got just 5 guys picked out again. What do you like at wide receiver this week, early in the week?
Hey, man, right back to the well. Devontae Adams is not getting shut down by anybody, apparently, so just keep on bringing it. He's had a 48, a 30, and a 36 the past 3 games. I know he's pricey, man, but just go ahead and sign me up, and I'll just build around it.
Mm-hmm.
Just love the targets he's getting, 16, 12, and 12. He's just automatic. I mean, there's not many other wide receivers that are getting that kind of target volume. Obviously, you're getting that with Keenan Allen. I also love him again this week. He's going against Miami. I know Miami's a little bit better in defense. But Keenan Allen's going to get targeted. He's just a favorite guy to go to for Herbert. And also, obviously, you got a nice game, which I failed to mention, Jared, with Goff going against Seattle this week. Gotta love Cup and the Woods this week. And I'll also go to back to the well with Terry McLaurin. Obviously getting a lot of targets and value, and then just kind of surprised to see Brandon Cook still kind of in that mid range range, as well as a couple other guys to like is Sterling Shepard and Slayton. These guys are just kind of cheap. They're getting value as far as targeted. Shepard, since he's been back, he's got 8, 10, and 8 targets at a price tag of 5,000 this week on DraftKings. That's nice steals that you're going to get. And then also Carolina Panthers receivers, they're just always cheap for some odd reason. And interesting this week is that they're DJ Moore and Anderson are leading the NFL as wide receiver duos in the whole NFL right now. So.
Yeah, I'm glad you mentioned DJ Moore. I'm going to get to him in a second because 5,100 is so cheap, and we'll talk about that. It's just I couldn't believe my eyes. Devontae Adams, obviously, you mentioned the numbers. Jacksonville can't stop anybody. I guess the one concern is, do they just run the ball up Jacksonville's throat? If it's windy, do they need it? But I mean, we haven't seen it since they've been back, and they've won pretty easily the last few weeks. 16, 12, and 12. I mean, 40 targets in 3 weeks, 114 DraftKings points. Holy shit, it's a huge number. Of course, you can go to Devontae Adams. Keenan Allen, I'm glad you brought that up. So when you look at the Miami Dolphins, defense playing much better, good defense. The perimeter corners, Byron Jones and Xavier Howard, very good. But in the slot, Nick Needham, very vulnerable. They're 20th against opposing wide receivers. They get torched in the slot, double-digit targets every week for Keenan Allen. Even this week, he was battling a sore throat. They did the COVID testing, everything else. Still 11 targets, put up a 28. I like Keenan Allen quite a bit. Right below that, you mentioned Cooper Kupp. Seattle has the worst secondary in football. They're allowing the most fantasy points to quarterbacks. They're allowing the most fantasy points to wide receivers. I mean, they're allowing more fantasy points than the Atlanta Falcons to wide receivers. Think about that. That is fucking insane. And look at Cooper Kupp's last game before the bye week this last week. 21 targets. Absolutely insane. 6,900 on DraftKings. 7, 8 on Fanduel. You look at his last 2 games against Seattle, a 30 and a 15. Cooper Kupp is in an absolute smash spot. And then you bring up Carolina's receivers. DJ Moore. So, Tampa Bay. 9th against opposing wide receivers. Been pretty good defensively, except for this last Sunday night. Obviously, that was just abysmal. But you look at DJ Moore. He's going to spend a lot of time in the slot as well as Curtis Samuel. You're probably going to see Carlton Davis, who's the best cover corner for Tampa Bay, spend a lot of time on Robbie Anderson. I haven't broke down the matchups yet. I will have the wide receiver cornerback matchups up on Draft Dashboard as well, and we'll go over them in the final look. But DJ Moore's going to see like Jamel Dean and Sean Murphy Bunting. In his last 3 games against Tampa Bay, an 18, a 16, and a 23, 5,100. I think this is a bounce-back game for DJ Moore. I think they get him the football. It took him way too long in that Kansas City game to get him going, and they still almost won the game. I like DJ Moore quite a bit this week as well. I haven't dug deep into these value guys. A guy like Randall Cobb against Cleveland in the slot at 4,000 sort of makes some sense to me, playing about 70% of the snaps, just looking at some value guys. Maybe Henry Ruggs against Denver if they can get him going. Cole Beasley kind of stands out. The slot there. Byron Murphy struggles in the slot against Arizona. I think it's he's only had 5 targets the last 2 weeks, but 12 targets in those 2 games before that. So just a couple like value guys I'm looking at, and don't sleep on Curtis Samuel again. I mean, look at his fantasy points. Ever since Matt Rule said, "Listen, we're going to get Curtis Samuel involved," they have gotten Curtis Samuel involved to the tune of 20 targets and 68 DraftKings points over the last 3 weeks. So you got to like that quite a bit as.
Do you see another Richie James week for San Francisco?
Good. Well, it just depends. I think Brandon Ayuk will be back, and Deebo Samuel has a chance to be back. It was interesting because Richie James was injured coming into that game. We didn't even think he was going to play, and he ends up just going off against the Packers, and then that bullshit last-minute touchdown that fucked my under bet, really pissed me off. Was having a perfect Thursday night football, just son of a bitch.
I don't know how salty you are about that. Sorry to bring that up.
I am so mad at my 49ers. There's the dumbest touchdown in the history. Like, it was just the dumbest touchdown. There's no reason for it. We're already injured as shit, and you're out there saying, "Oh, hey, let's get everyone." I mean, we have to field the team at least. Fucking 49ers really pissed me off. I'm pretty sure Kyle Shanahan had bet the over on that and was going to lose 20 grand and said, screw it, we're going for this last minute touchdown because I need to win my
Possible.
bet back. Son of a bitch. Oh, what a son of a bitch. Anyways, I digress. So let's move on to tight end, shall we? At tight end, lots of value this week. I think a lot of cheap plays, especially here on this main slate. What are you looking at early on at tight end?
For me, it's kind of tough this week. I like. I think Hawkinson's been probably one of the major targeted tight ends this week. Obviously, jumping off the board, going against Washington. This could go either one of two ways. If Alex Smith obviously plays like he did Sunday, it's hard to trust that after one game, and we saw him come in before and not look that great. So could see a lot of T.J. Hawkinson. Targets this week. I do like him this week against Washington's defense. But a guy who's come on pretty strong here recently, who surprisingly has been a big part of that offense, is Evan Ingram. Really like him this week. He may be one of my favorites this week to play. I still like Robert Tonyan a lot. I know he's gotten a little bit more play this past week, but with all the targets going towards Adams and Tanya's just that guy that makes those big plays. When they need a third down conversion, this guy's just wide open in the middle of the field for 25 yards, catches it no problem, and then they go back to throwing the Adams all the time. So like him a lot this week again. I'm not done going to the well for Logan Thomas. He's on the field too much to not like him at 3,300. And then one more guy to kind of like and talk about possibly is how cheap Greg Olsen is now. $2,500 for Greg Olsen. It's kind of surprising.
Yeah, no, that is interesting. He hasn't been a huge part of that offense, but I mean, he's on the field.
Right.
So I don't disagree with that. Hawkinson, I'm glad you brought him up. He's really coming around. Look, 24 targets over the last 3 weeks, 5 straight double-digit fantasy outputs. The football team, I should say, the Schneiders, whatever the hell you want to call them, the nameless team, the faceless gods, whatever you want to call them. 27th against opposing tight ends, so Hawkinson is in a nice spot. And then I skipped all the way down. I like Evan Ingram, 29 targets the last 3 weeks. I mean, he's got that scary floor too. Stone hands Evan Ingram. Guy can't catch. And if you look at his last game against the Eagles, he put up an 11. But the Eagles struggle against tight ends, allowing the 4th most in the league at 4,500. Right below that, you get Eric Ebron against Cincinnati. And I wonder if this ambulance is coming by right here. There we go. We have our heroes out there saving the day, so there we go. We'll let them pass by. Okay, Eric Ebron against the Bengals. The Bengals allow the 2nd most fantasy points in the league to opposing tight ends. They've been torched by the position this year. 4,400 on DraftKings, 5,400 on Fanduel. I do like Eric Ebron. Of course, we got to keep an eye on Ben Roethlisberger. We probably don't want to play Ebron if Mason Rudolph ends up at quarterback. Dallas Goedert, he's back. Giants 10th against tight ends. Last time out against the Giants put up an 11. He's at 4,200. I think that's cheap for a guy like Dallas Goedert with big upside. You mentioned Tonyan at 36. Jacksonville struggles against tight ends, allows the 3rd most. There is a guy here that has been sort of a letdown this year. Missed a game with a hand injury, but he has a good history against Seattle. Put up a 22 the last time they played. Tyler Higbee's at 3,700. And look, I know he only had the one really good game against the Eagles earlier in the year where he had that 3-touchdown performance. After a bye week, fully healthy, I think we could see some big plays to Tyler Higbee over the middle of the field against a beatable Seattle secondary. So I do like some Tyler Higbee at 3,700. Good week for tight end value this week.
That's a great week for that. Just a couple guys that I failed to mention before we get off for the tight ends there. Fells and Atkins are really, really cheap for the Texans this week, and both those guys are kind of sharing a low, but I think Atkins is getting a more play downfield.
Yeah.
And going back to that Rams call, I really like Jared Everett myself at 3,100.
Yeah, I mean, there's options. You just don't have to spend up at tight end, and it's just all about getting that right one. I think Tanyan's a great option too at 36, especially if it's windy there and they got to throw some of those shorter balls.
Let's not forget about your boy Bryant at $3,000 this week.
Harrison Bryant, yeah.
I don't know if he's gonna be, spectacular like he was a couple games ago, but he's got a nice matchup this week with against for tight ends going against that defense.
Yeah, he does. Again, we got Austin Hooper, I guess, has a chance of being back this week. So that really will probably depend on how much, if Austin Hooper can play. So
Right.
just
Yeah.
got to stay tuned throughout the week. And once we know
Sure.
more, that's why it's a first look and
That's
not
right.
our last look. I mean, there you go. So looking at defenses, I've only got a few marked here. I didn't see a ton that I'm like in love with. You
Yeah.
never know. Any defense can score a touchdown. I got like 4 defenses marked. What are you looking at early in the week defense wise?
This week I'm just kind of looking to pay down somewhere. I've looked through here. I mean, last week I kind of thought that for sure the Steelers were kind of a lock against how bad Dallas has looked, and then that guy just comes in there and just like tramples on them like down the field, no problem, dude. It's just kind of drove me mad
Yeah.
because all week I was trying to focus my lineups on building to try to get that Steeler defense in because I felt like that was probably the best place to be. However, that didn't work out too well. However, I am kind of looking at to pay down. I like the Lions at a possibility this week. I'm not sold on Alex Smith being great. I could see him throwing a couple picks possibly this week and turning the ball over, especially if he gets under pressure. I know he's trying to throw the ball out early because he's probably terrified of getting his leg took out from under him or something.
Yeah.
And I imagine with that stage fright and you see a freight train coming at you, you're probably going to freak a little bit.
And then imagine seeing the guy above you have his leg twist sideways.
Right.
Like you're like, holy shit! Even though it looks like Kyle Allen, he could come back this year. I thought that was I thought that was like gruesome, like Dak Prescott gruesome. Somehow that's apparently not that bad. I don't know how.
I mean, I saw the play. It didn't look when I first saw Twitter feeding about it. I went and saw the clip, and I was expecting the same thing, some Dak Prescott injury, like that kind of thing, and it didn't look that bad. He just kind of got leg sweep like Cobra Kai, and
But it was
looked,
bent. It was bent the wrong way. Like it was.
Yeah.
Like how is he even possibly? There's no way he comes back, right? Like I keep saying, like few. I'm like, how? Like that thing was pointed the wrong direction. But
Yeah, I'm not quite sure, man. We may see a lot of Alex Smith this year. I just have a hard time seeing Alex Smith being able to get through the last part of the season.
oh god.
So that'll start to get confusing to see if the what they do with that quarterback situation. Say Alex Smith gets hurt, what are they going to do? So
Go back to Haskins, I guess, and even though they
I
hate
imagine
him and
so.
sent him home and have pretty much ruined
I gotta
his
imagine
confidence.
he's really salty. So I'm not
Yeah.
sure how that's gonna work out. So
Yeah.
not sure, man. But I kind of like the Lions. I know that they're not great on defense, but could be a nice pay down spot this week. I also kind of like the Giants. Could be a Giants. They've kind of been an under sneaky kind of defense to get a turnover here and there. Also could go the way of the Philadelphia Eagles this week as well because obviously Jones likes to turn the ball over a lot.
Yeah.
I'm not really sold on Wentz as well. Wentz hasn't really been great this season, so I could see that going either way. Really, other than that, maybe sneaky with Green Bay. Maybe that was a fluky game for Luton, and maybe he comes out and looks like garbage this weekend. But there's not a lot to love this week. I mean, you really paying down is probably better.
Yeah.
Get you a couple points and just pay up other places. So.
Yep, I don't disagree. I mean, I've got the Steelers marked. Anytime you're playing a rookie quarterback and you have that defense, they might rely on it more, but makes me nervous. The Packers, you mentioned that. Bad weather conditions, 6th-round rookie. Even though the Packers' defense is soft and they're just a bunch of giant... Oh, I fucking hate that defense. Hate that football team. I am not a Packers fan, but at home in Lambeau against Jake Luton, you have to consider him at 3-7. I'm glad you mentioned the Eagles. If you look at Pro Football Focus, the number 2 ranked pass rush in the NFL, right behind Tampa Bay, is the Pittsburgh Steelers rather, is the Philadelphia Eagles. Daniel Jones loves to turn the football over. I think the Eagles at 3-6 are a play. And then another defense, as much as this pains me to say it, at home in New Orleans against a beat-up 49ers offense and Nick Mullins. I'd go to the New Orleans Saints at 3,000. Certainly have a chance to create some problems for Nick Mullins. That secondary, the pass rush, all healthy. Nick Mullins could be in for a long week, and I know the Saints want revenge on the 49ers after that crazy game that we won last year. Ended up knocking the Saints down out of the first-round bye situation there. The Niners took that. So that'll be something interesting to watch as well. And then, I mean, down here, I just didn't I couldn't. I think you're right about the Lions and Alex Smith, but again, the Lions might have the worst defense in the league. Them
Yeah.
and the Seahawks are. I mean, it's really, really, really bad.
I mean, I guess you could take a stab with the Chargers possibly. If Tua has another,
Yeah,
I'm not really, I don't really understand them trading away King to the Titans.
me neither. And you saw
I didn't
Desmond
really
King score a
understand that.
defensive touchdown last week. You saw it.
I know. I just didn't understand that. Why? He's pretty young too. He's what? Not even
Yeah,
25 yet,
yeah,
right?
yeah. Desmond King was one of the top slot
He
corners in the league in terms of
don't
rankings,
understand.
everything
Didn't
else.
understand that trade at all. So
Yeah, yeah, it was bizarre. That's about it for me. Anything else you want to touch on before we get the hell out of here?
no, man. That's pretty much it. Just close your eyes and put your finger on the defense this week.
That's it. That's it. I like that Saints. I'm going to say the Saints beat up on my 49ers a little bit this week. Again, thank you all so much for watching. Don't forget you want player pools throughout the week, timestamps when it's done, lineup optimizers, player pools, research tools, articles, rankings. Click that link, try Draft Dashboard, 30 days for $1. Don't forget to go check out Doug's channel over at Jackpot DFS. You can find us both on Twitter for news and updates. Our Twitter handles are right there on the screen, at Dfs Bachelor, at Jackpot25. Don't forget to like the video, subscribe, and leave a comment. Be part of our giveaway. Check out my friends over at Overlay DFS. And again, I will be live Thursday, 4 o'clock Eastern, 1 o'clock Pacific, with my guy Donnie over at Sportsbook Review doing all of our NFL bets, picks, props, predictions, and again on Sunday morning. So lots of stuff there. And you can check out the Masters video I did today, my first soiree, if you will, into the golf world. Lots of great stats over there as well. Again, thank you all so much for watching. May the fantasy gods be with you all. We'll see you for our Thursday night football video. Doug will see you over at his channel. Lots of good stuff over there. Goodbye, folks.